I'm happier here now than I've been in years. So I have absolutely no regret. Hola, my name is Colin. I'm originally from London, UK. I left there when I was 20. I've lived most of my adult life in Toronto, in Canada. I retired 10 years ago, became somewhat nomadic and moved around. Decided I wanted a home base again and took a look online, did some research about different places to move to. And 10 months ago, I moved here to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. I looked at different options, places like Panama, Costa Rica, even Thailand, Portugal, Spain, different options. I picked Mexico and Puerto Vallarta in particular. I don't know if it was just one thing. It really is a combination. It was the fact that I met the requirements to get residency status here, which I didn't for some countries, and combined that with the fact it's not that far from Toronto's 5.5 hour plane ride, but it's not like you're flying halfway around the world either. I wanted somewhere that was dog friendly because my dog was coming with me, and that was important to me. I wanted somewhere with good health care, getting older, retired. Healthcare becomes more important. I wanted somewhere that had a fairly large expat community, and as a gay man, I wanted somewhere with a fairly large gay expat community. I wanted somewhere where I didn't have to drive. I would rather not get a car again. I wanted to be able to walk. And Puerto Vallarta ticks all those boxes. I'm looking for one more adventure in my life, and I do want to travel and see a lot more of Mexico. Before I moved down here in April, I'd never been to Mexico before in my life, which a lot of people found strange. Most of the expats living down here were coming down here in the winters for years before they finally decided to get residency status and live here. So it was a little different for me. But I like that. I like that sense of adventure. And I'm working hard on my Spanish. So once I've learned enough Spanish, I want to do a lot more traveling and see a lot more of this country. It's an amazing country. It's a lot more relaxed than I'm used to, which is wonderful. The weather suits me just perfectly. I tend to like it hot. And, it gets really hot and humid here in the summer. I got here at the end of April, and it was definitely hot at the end of April here already. And, it continued to get hotter. And of course, the wet season arrived, I guess, mid-June, the rain started. It's another thing I love about Puerto Vallarta as far as the weather goes. It's very dry in the winter. It rains in the summer, but it's not like in England or in North America where you get these dull gray days where it rains all day. If it rains here, you get these huge tropical downpours that last a couple of hours, and then the sun comes back out. So you don't lose a whole day just because it's going to rain. And sometimes it can be a little bit much, but that's what air conditioning is for. Certainly now it's February, and we were just walking on the beach. And I walk my dog on the beach like early in the morning. Sometimes like 7:30 in the morning, we're walking on the beach, and I'm in shorts and hopefully a t-shirt. Some mornings it's only like 16, 17 degrees. That's a little chilly for me. I actually have to wear a hoodie some mornings, but it's 29, 28 degrees by the afternoon. The process for renting here. When I first got here, I booked an Airbnb for a month, so I had somewhere to go to when I got here. So one of the first things I needed to sort out was somewhere more permanent to live. I chose to rent this place for a year whilst I decided whether I was going to be staying in Puerto Vallarta. Last September, I decided that, yeah, I like Puerto Vallarta, it's home. This is where I want to live out my days. And I started the process of looking to buy somewhere, which I found a few weeks ago. And in about 3 more weeks, it should be mine. The processes are different. Renting here, rents like mostwhere are expensive. It's going to be one of your biggest expenses if you're going to rent in Puerto Vallarta. It's also one of the more expensive places in Mexico to rent. This is a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, older condo, and I'm paying 20,000 pesos a month to rent this. I mean, that's not bad. In Canadian dollars, that's around $16.50 or something a month. The reason I decided to buy was because rents are expensive, and owning property here is a lot cheaper. Like in North America, we're used to property taxes, which are thousands of dollars. Here they have their property tax is called predial, and your predial is like, a couple of $100 for the year if you're talking in Canadian or American dollars. It's a lot cheaper once you own the property, so it's cheaper to live. If you own your own property, you can live on a lot less here than if you're having to spend 20,000, 25,000 pesos on rent. As far as renting here, you do need temporary residencia or your permanent residencia in order to lease. They will ask to see that. It's got numbers on it they have to have. But that's all you need. As long as you've got that, you can rent a place. The lease was in both Spanish and English. A lot of legal type stuff here will be in Spanish and English, but it's the Spanish wording which is legal. The English wording is for a courtesy for you, but if there's a discrepancy between the Spanish and English wording, it's the Spanish wording that's the one that counts. There's definitely culture shock when I got here. And I mean, the biggest thing is the language. Puerto Vallarta's not bad. There's a lot of English-speaking people and you can get by with English here. But that said, there are things you need to do, like dealing with immigration. When I first came here to get my residency status, I hired a facilitator. I don't think I would have been able to manage that part of the process. Government offices aren't going to speak English to you, and it's a Spanish-speaking country. You should speak the language. So yeah, there's definitely some culture shocks. There's different ways, things that you're used to in North America that is different here. Like the fact I throw my garbage out on the street corner. You get in trouble if you did that in most countries, but that's the system here. It's how it works. Anything I dislike? Yeah, there's things that, there's no social safety net down here. So you see homeless people sleeping on the streets and things, but then you get a lot of homeless people sleeping on the streets in Toronto and a lot of other places too. It's noisy. It is definitely noisy. I'm in Zona Romantica. It's known to be noisy. Whereas, in places like Toronto, wherever in North America, you've got noise bylaws. Well, they don't exist here. So if they're pumping concrete till 10 o'clock at night, which they do, it's noisy. I don't particularly like that, but you've just got to learn to, that's the way it is here. If you're going to let things like that bother you, you're not going to do well here. I'm terrible at budgeting, but the rent's by far the largest at about, in Canadian dollars, about $16.50. That's probably about 1,400 American dollars or 20,000 pesos. And all my other expenses added up together are going to be less than that. I eat out quite a bit. I go out and do things, so I don't spend money on things like that. But overall, things are cheaper here. You go and buy a beer, and you can get beer even in bars and restaurants. A happy hour beer's 40 pesos. Riding the bus is 10 pesos. These are very small amounts of money. If you like taco stands, and there's loads of taco stands here, you can get tacos for 20 pesos. If you want to go to some of the nicer restaurants, then you're going to be spending 500-600 pesos on a meal with drinks. But you go to the farmer's market. We were just up at the farmer's market. You get fresh produce, fresh meat, poultry and things up there, and it's reasonably priced, cheaper than you'll find in North America. But if you want to go to somewhere like Lacoma's a big supermarket here. For the Canadians, I'll tell you, it's better than the best Loblaws you've ever been in. It's really, it's a lovely shopping experience, and you've got all kinds of imported items you won't find elsewhere. But I go grocery shopping there. By the time I get out of there with 3 bags of groceries, somehow it's 2,000 pesos. It's expensive, so I've learned to shop there less. Generally, when I've had to deal with Mexican bureaucracy, I've hired someone to deal with it for me. Like when I first came down here and needed to get my residencia permanente, I hired a facilitator that took care of it all, set up the appointments. I just had to meet them at the office and have my photo taken and everything. It's easier to hire someone to do it. Government offices are not going to speak to you in English. So if your Spanish isn't up to handling a complex conversation, and mine certainly isn't, it's easy just to hire someone to do it for you. I don't remember exactly what I paid her, but to save me all that aggravation, to me it was worth it. One of the reasons I chose to come and live in Puerto Vallarta was because it has such a large gay expat community and is very welcoming to the LGBT, etc. community. It's absolutely a very friendly, inclusive, accepting place to be. To compare it to Toronto, because I know Toronto the best, it's a bigger actual gay community here, at least it seems that way. There's certainly a lot more gay bars and restaurants and things here than you'll find in Toronto. I guess there's a large enough market here that you have a really good selection of these places. And there's little quieter places where the expats tend to go versus the ones right down by the beach where all the tourists and everything go. But overall, there's plenty to do. How safe is Puerto Vallarta? I have never felt unsafe in Puerto Vallarta. I've walked home late at night on my own, and I've never felt unsafe. I feel as safe here as I felt wandering the streets of Toronto. Something I struggled with when I first came down here was, should I get medical insurance? Being a Canadian, I'm used to the fact that I don't have to pay for doctors and hospitals. It's all available. But I did decide to buy medical insurance, at least for the first year that I was down here, just to give me peace of mind, so that if anything big happens, I have a heart attack, get diagnosed with cancer, I get hit by a bus or something and I have to get taken to the hospital, I've got insurance to cover that sort of stuff. Healthcare in general here is very inexpensive. If I want to go see a doctor, there's doctor's offices right beside a lot of the pharmacies, and there's pharmacies everywhere in Puerto Vallarta. It costs like 20 pesos to go see a doctor at one of these places, and they'll write you a prescription, and most things are cheap for prescriptions. Some things not so much. There's some medication I take for my blood pressure, and I was quite shocked to find out it's a lot more expensive when I had to buy it down here than it was in Canada. I have had dental work done since I've been down here. That is definitely cheaper than it is in Canada. Quality is no different. Well, I would like to say adios, goodbye to everyone out there that's watching this. And thank you to the Mexico Relocation Guide for having me on here. And I hope it's been useful to those of you who are watching this. And if you are thinking of coming to Mexico or coming to Puerto Vallarta, from my experience, I would say do it.